中间这个人的名字叫 Natalia， 街头人称野蛮人。
At first was the greatest dad ever. He bought me everything I wanted until about the first week of living there. One of his buddies raped me, and he walked in on it and he shot them in the face. And I jumped out my two-story window and I had ran to the police station.
Natalia 在脸上的显著位置纹了 "Try me"， 意思是动动我试试，以此告诫他人不要招惹他。Natalia 的故事算是我在做访谈早期最令人难过，甚至于说最令人不适的一个故事。他到底经历了什么？今天让我们来听 Natalia 讲述她的故事。
No hope at the end of the tunnel was there. I was born, and so my mom took me home from the hospital. I had 4 older brothers at this point in time. She was into the cocaine, smashing heroin at that time, any opiates she could get her hands on, liquor, getting beat by boyfriends, prostituting herself to get money for drugs. We were getting beat by her boyfriends or her Johns at the time. I was always the black sheep, pushed away, and she would always be mad at me for anything that would happen in the house, whether it had to do with my brothers or me that did it wrong. It was always me. So one day her husband that she was married to at the time gave her the decision that it was either him or me, and she had chose him over me and sent me to my father's, whom I didn't even know. When I first moved in with my dad, I guess it's like basic every girl's story of living with a monster for a father. I moved in with him, and he at first was the greatest dad ever. He bought me everything I wanted. He made my room look like every little girl wanted, with the princesses, and made me feel very comfortable until about the first week of living there. I remember him coming home drunk, and the first time an interaction had ever happened, he slapped me in the face and told me to go to my room. When I went to my room, he came up after and told me that I needed to get undressed and go into bed. And I asked why I couldn't put my pajamas on. He had told me, well, every little girl, when they are with their father, gets undressed and goes into bed. He then proceeded to get in bed with me and ended up molesting me for the next almost 3 years of my life, and beating me, and he would get drunk every night. I would go to school, and I'd come home, and my stepmom would be in tears saying, "Natalie, he's coming, hide. Where are you going to hide in a small house? You can't." He would make me dig holes and tell me that he was going to tell my mom I ran away. He was going to bury me alive. He took my bed out of my room, my carpet out of my room, made me sleep on a floor with just bread and water for weeks and weeks. Would send me in school with knives in my backpack and call school just so that I could come home so that he could molest me and beat me, and told me that if I ever told the teachers that he would kill me. One day I finally had enough and I jumped out my 2-story window and I had ran to the police station in Aurelia. At that time I was 12, it was just after my 12th birthday, and the police told me I was lying. They didn't want to believe it, and my dad was a very well-known person in Aurelia. He was in a biker gang, so he was very good with his words, we'll say. And then when they brought me back to the house and wanted me to say it in front of him, obviously I was scared because he told me if I told anybody he would kill me. So I would change my story when they brought me there, and the cops would say, "Oh, where did the bruises come from?" "Well, I got in a fight at school," or "I fell off the jungle gym," or then the day came where my stepmom, I guess, finally had enough as well. I didn't know until I was older that she was also getting beat by my father. She had told me to jump out the window and go and get help right away because this time he was going to kill me. And so I did, and when they took me away at first I wanted to go back because I thought he was going to kill not only me but my little brothers and my little sisters that were there. I had a little brother and sister there that were only 2, they were twins. And I didn't want to say anything, and then finally I broke open and told them everything that happened. And I just remember how horrific it was sitting in the police station and having to say, you know, words like penis and all this stuff at 11 years old or 13 years old to a police officer. And you could tell that the police officer didn't really believe it. You know what I mean? And my mom would call me a dirty whore and tell me I'm a liar, and that's what made her not want to have anything to do with me after that. So then after that, it was just me and my older brother, who ended up coming to stay with me because he had enough of my mom. From then on, it was just us on the street, and he took over as a parental figure. He basically raised me because my mom did nothing. She was always passed out or nodded out, or he would cook me dinner and became best friends. Brother went to the store and thought he could leave me with what was his friend, supposed to be his friend. And as soon as I heard the door lock, the man pushed me on the bed and raped me. And my brother had forgot his wallet and came back and had seen him on top of me and shot him in the face. Still to this day, he's in jail for the rest of his life, but still to this day, we are still best friends. I quickly fell into a gang life there. My brother was in the Crips, in Driftwood Crips in Toronto. So I was left behind with them after everything was said and done. One of his buddies took over and took care of me. I was initiated into the Crips. Started carrying guns and selling drugs to make money to eat. At this point in time in my life, I hadn't tried drugs yet. I just knew that I could eat with the money, and, you know, would meet the big time drug dealers that you see on TV, and, you know, would have everything that I wanted, and that wasn't the case. After that, I was involved with the Driftwood Crips for about 11 years after that, selling drugs, and that was what I got addicted to the most, was selling drugs and doing drugs. The first time I ever did drugs, I did cocaine, and it numbed so much pain that I just constantly wanted to do it so I didn't have to feel pain. I was being pimped out by one of the drug dealers, and it would just numb the pain every time I had to go out and see a John when I didn't want to. Every day I would have to see at least 3 to 4 men a day, and I would get maybe $20 from each person.
So since how old were you?
I was 15 till about 19 when I came here. It was very hard. I went through a lot. I got beat up a lot. I was raped more than one time in different shelters. It became almost like normal in my life. It got to the point where I was taking my pants off for these men so that it wouldn't hurt. It would just feel like a normal thing. And if I could turn back time, I probably would have told on all these guys, but being in a gang, you're always taught not to tell the police, right? 17th birthday, I met a girl, and she was very much like me. We bonded very much, very, 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 very closely. She was in the gang as well. We tried to run away and get away from these people and make a new life. And it didn't work. The pimp ended up finding us, so it went from a straight gang life to a pimp having pimped us out. But it was all related through the gang. I couldn't tell you how, I don't know. The drugs took over very quickly, and I was I wasn't like this, that's for sure. I was not coherent most of the time. But we were always together, and one day we were in Toronto when I heard a bang. And I looked behind me, and she had got shot in her stomach, and she was 9 months pregnant. So she had lost her baby and her. So the only one good thing that I found in my life again, now was all of a sudden gone. So that took a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, and I'm still not over that. I have lots of scars on my body. One of the guys tortured me for 8.5 hours and put cigarettes out on my legs. It was a call to go to see a John, and it was just a bad call. He ended up locking me in his house. He told to the pimp that it was a 3-hour call. And as soon as I sat down in the chair, he had grabbed my arms, tied my arms behind the chair, forced himself upon me, and I tried to shove him away with my head, and every time I would scream or try to shove him away, that's when he would burn me with cigarettes and tell me I'm a dirty whore, and he would burn the roof of my mouth, so my palate of my mouth is gone a little bit, and they had to do a little bit of a surgery, so I don't have like the normal glands in my mouth, so I'm always dry mouthed. After a certain amount of time, the pimp would come to the house if they didn't hear from me or get a phone call. And that's what happened is he came to the house. The guy wasn't at the house when he got there. The door was open. I was very lethargic, and I was knocked out at the time I woke up in the hospital. The last thing I remember him doing was like punching me in the face, so until the point of it I got knocked out. So I don't know what happened in between those periods, but I know that I had 14 staples in my vaginal area, so whatever he did was not very nice at all. The hospital called 911, and the police had arrested the guy afterwards. So when I was 19, I got raped one more time at Eva Satellite, which is another shelter in Toronto. Finally, the police had enough of me being raped in Toronto all the time. They bring me here to Youth Haven, and told me that it would be a better place and I could get help here to be a better person, to be the person that I need to be. When I came here with lots of drugs and just still continued to sell drugs here. The only thing that stopped was the prostituting, because I didn't have a pimp and I didn't want to be a working girl anyways. It was just something that was forced upon me. When I first was trying to get used to the shelter, I was a very hurt youth and very violent towards other people. It was almost like getting my anger out on other people was a way to deal with everything, right? Like all my hurt and my pain in my life. 9 months after I moved here, I met a guy, and the first time I slept with him, I got pregnant with my son. My first son. He died when he was 15 days old. We had to pull his breathing tubes. I was on drugs then. I was clean. But he had a rare disease called charges, which makes you not walk, talk, eat, smell, hear, or breathe. And so we had to pull his breathing tubes. My son passed away. I cut my arm. It was an inch away from the artery. And I just wanted to be with him. I thought if I was with him, it would end all the pain. We decided to stay together because we got through that together, so we thought that we could conquer anything. Be in this fantastic relationship. And then one day I came home and I had relapsed, and I told him that I relapsed. That I had smoked crack with a friend because I was upset. And that was the first time he ever hit me. He punched me in my face. I just took it. It's a norm to me at that point. Then, 18 months later, I had my next son, Darnell, with the same guy. So now we just started to stay together because of the kids. When I had Darnell, I brought him, he was 13 pounds. We brought him home from the hospital. I felt amazing, I felt awesome, I felt great. I could bring my son home. I felt like I finally achieved something in my life. That I was handed a piece of gold, really, to start fresh and to give a life something that I never had. And then he was gone because they said that what my father had done to me, and that I didn't want to take medication that Children's Aid was trying to tell me to take, and my ex-husband was obviously working. I had postpartum really bad, and I didn't want to take the medication. CAS, I took my son and immediately adopted him out because of my past. All my kids are very close. Again, 2 years later, I had my daughter, and CAS took her right from the hospital. And then I had my youngest son, I just had a year and a half ago. He's with his dad. And again, I brought him home, and I didn't want to let him go. He was constantly in my arms. I wouldn't give him to his dad. I was so scared he was going to be gone. And finally, I worked up the courage to leave the abusive relationship that I was in with their dad. And I packed up the baby and I went to the Busby Center here in Barrie, and I told them that they had already known that my ex-husband was beating me. It was just a matter of admitting it to them and getting the help. And he was good with his words, very, very good with his words. And unfortunately, they gave full custody to my ex-husband, and I have not seen him since he was 6 months old, and he's now going on 13. Since then, I've been in active addiction and on the street, in and out of jail. Unfortunately, this time it's fentanyl that I'm on. Like I said, my brother was murdered 8 months ago because he was selling drugs for very high up people, and they found out that he had HIV and they chopped him up. And 2 weeks before Christmas, I had the police come and tell me that he was murdered. My 21-year-old brother in 2015 was murdered by his girlfriend. So at this point, I felt like everything was coming crashing down around me. I didn't know who my supports were. Multiple accounts of trying to commit suicide. No hope at the end of the tunnel was there. You know, I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if I was in jail. I didn't care if I was on the street. I didn't care. I didn't care if I was alive or dead. And still, it's hard today to struggle with. I struggle with that very much so. I'm always alone right now. I do have a boyfriend, but he's not anything good to speak about. He cheats on me all the time, and he leaves me on the street by myself in a tent. You know, he's not abusive, but he's just not there. And I have my couple friends, but they're only my friends if I have money or if I have drugs or if I have something that they want. Every day when I wake up, it's scary because I'm asking myself what's gonna happen. I'm either getting dumped for my money, or other girls are jealous because I'm always hanging out with the boys and I always have stuff, and they'll wait around corners and jump me. Or I've been beat by multiple guys here. 2 weeks ago when I got some money and I fell asleep on the grass and somebody cut my side bag off and it had all my money in it. I don't eat barely as it is because I'm vegetarian, so right now they've stopped everything in Barrie, handing out meals and everything like that. But even when they were, I wasn't eating because it was all meat based. I'd ask somebody for $1 for a drink, or can I have $5 to get something to eat, or can you even buy me something to eat? And I would get told no. Obviously I have lots of tattoos, like tattoos on my face. I have very bad anger issues. So I'm not very job material like, and I know that. And I know I have a lot of work to do to even think about starting to get a job. The reason why I got Try Me on my face is down here they call me savage because I can hold my own, I can fight, and I don't ask anybody to fight my battles. I want to open a tattoo studio. I already have my apprenticeship for that. Right now I'm on a waiting list to go to a 1.5 year rehab. And then I also want to do kind of like this, but I want to speak in schools to younger, like to the youth about, being street smart basically. And some kids nowadays think that living, hey, I'm going to go live on the street, it's going to be fun, it's going to be great, and it's not. This is not the life you want to live. You know, this is not, especially, I hate to say it, but especially for a female, this is not the life you want to live. You know, it's every day you wake up. Every day, first of all, you go to bed wondering if you're going to wake up. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if there's some guy that's going to run through. Like, I stay in a bush right now by myself in a tent. So at any moment, anybody could come in that tent and harm me. And I wouldn't even know, you know? I mean, I was just talking about this with my friend, actually, a couple hours ago. He was telling me I was looking really thin, and made him cry because he's watching me fade away. And it's nothing to do with really my addiction, it's just stress.
采访结束后的6个月，再次与娜塔莉亚碰面的时候，她已经身怀6甲。从她口中得知，她的采访结束后不久，就有一家女子中心从我的访谈中听说了她的故事，并破格给她安排了一个住处。而我采访她的这段视频也被循环播放于这家女子中心的大厅，以便让更多人对这些弱势群体加深了解。娜塔莉的故事这一刻也算是画上了原点。今天的故事就到这里，记得订阅这个频道，我们下一期见。
I still have hope. I still have hope that I can be that person that I want to be. I know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but I know I can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything, right? So I still have a lot of hope. I want to gain my weight back, and I want to get healthy, and yeah, live a normal life again, as normal as I can. My daughter will be 13 this year.
You don't see her?
No, I don't see any of my kids or talk to them. My oldest turns 18 this year, and I'm hoping that he'll find me. That's another reason I want to go to rehab, right? It's one of the biggest reasons. So, not only for that, for myself, right? I'm gonna end up dead out here if I don't get back on track. I can promise you I won't kill myself.